Okay. Hi guys, my name is Zola. I am from Social Branch, and I am just going to basically walk you guys through how I do C2 mid low. If you have any questions throughout, please just say something, raise your hand, send a chat, anything is fine. I guess I'm going to just start us off with this introduction presentation. Just give me a second. All right, so C2 low mid is the other main program for this upcoming term. I think you guys did C1 yesterday. So C2, I would say, is like the more fun part of the term. It's project-based, discussion-based, and it's basically just like building perspectives for the students. So it's broken up into 6 units. There are 2 lessons each, except for unit 6, which has 3. So you're focusing on the same topic for 2 weeks in a row. And you have a smaller project and then a bigger project. And I have a cat, so if he comes in, sorry about that. So, yes. So I'm gonna also walk you guys through the test that you have to take after this. So if you want to write down the answers, that would be helpful to you. So what is the program objective of C2? So the program objective is to build individual points of view, evaluate dual perspectives, and strengthen problem-solving skills through project-based learning. So basically, for each lesson, you have 2 points of views about an issue, and then you're going to do discussion on that and then do a project. So you want to look at those different perspectives. So for the first lesson of a unit in C2, the focus is topic knowledge and perspective building via discussion. So I'm going to go through all of the pages and show you guys how that looks. And then for the second unit, the focus is extending topic knowledge and perspective building via in-class projects and presentations, okay? So the first unit you will do, or the first lesson in a unit, you will do a project, but it's going to be a lot smaller. And then the second lesson or the second week, you're going to do a project, but it's going to be a lot bigger. So I kind of like divide it into short project weeks and longer project weeks. And then what is the focus for the reading and lesson section of C2 low and mid? Learning the fundamental skills and understanding logical connections within a passage. So within the lesson, there is a reading section and a listening section. So that's really where you're going to have most of your discussion, and they're going to learn their information to build their points of views. And again, I'll show you what all of this looks like, so don't worry if it doesn't make sense. What is the objective of the connect section? Just to generate interest in the topic, and that's the same as C1. The objective of consider is to introduce the perspectives. So we have a topic, right? We're going to look at 2 perspectives, and you're introducing that in that section. Purpose of identify is basically to explore the topic informed opinions. So that's like the research section. So I'll go more into that. The objective of the understand section is to understand and discuss key points of the first perspective. So again, discussing information about a point of view. And then the contrast section is just the opposite. So you're looking at the other point of view. And then reflect is just to reassess initial opinions about the issue. So that's when you discuss, like, did my opinion change throughout the class and things like that. So that's just to help you guys for later. But for now, I will bring up the SMART textbook and show you guys basically just how I would do the class. All right, so I'm going to be using C2 PAR, which I'm sure some of you guys will be teaching at some point just because I'm familiar with this lesson, but the lessons are pretty much the same based on the levels. It's just the topics that vary. So for Unit 1, the topic for C2 PAR is virtual or reality. So it's basically talking about video games. Are they beneficial for students? You'll see as we go through. The cover page is the same as C1. You're basically just introducing the topic, okay? So you can put in a media card or two, start kind of just getting students interested in the topic. What do you see in this cover page? What are they doing? They're gonna say they're playing video games. Ask the students, oh, do you play video games? So you're just getting them interested in that. On to the next page. Again, this is pretty similar to C1. So this is our connect page. And this is basically, again, just giving you time to have the students connect with the topic. So we have vocab words here, right? So you can kind of do this similar to C1, but you don't need to go over every single vocab word that you see here. Just go over what you think is important for the lesson, right? So media violence. What does the word violence mean? What is media? So you can bring in media cards again for that. Let's see. So we have some questions here. Do you think violent video games or TV shows affect kids' behavior? Why or why not? So basically just put in media cards. If there's any words that you think might be difficult for them to understand, get them to understand that. Same with C1. Yeah, just introduce the words because they're going to be used throughout the lesson. Okay, moving on. Okay, so on to the consider page. This is where we really introduce the 2 points of view. So the first point of view would be some people feel that playing video games does not lead to violent behavior versus others claim that playing violent video games can cause violent behavior. So this is basically, you don't need to spend too long on this page. You're just getting kind of their initial opinion. And I want to also say, make sure you ask your branch like FM or MC or TL, because different branches do things differently. So like you'll see on the next page, my branch doesn't do this page, but some branches might. So I'm going to go through how to do it anyways, but just clarify with your branch on what pages you do and don't do. But for this one, I like to just say, okay, raise your hand if you think that playing violent video games does not lead to violent behavior. And then I'll ask them like why. So it's kind of just getting their initial opinion, seeing what they think, what their reasons are. And then down here, you can also preview the project. I would say just check with your branch on that one. I don't always like to do this because it might distract them from the lesson, or sometimes I choose a different project. So if you chose a different project than this, then it might not match. But don't need to spend too long on this page. And then moving on. So this page is related to the last page, right? They're starting to form their opinion by doing research. And again, our branch does not do this page, but you should check with your branch because they might. So for this page, they are basically supposed to be researching the topic, which is violent video games. So you can give them some time, check the SIG guide, maybe 15 minutes, and ask them what some keywords would be. So video games, media violence, things like that. And then they should be looking for an article and then writing a summary on it. This might be a bit difficult for them to do, so you can actually find some articles in advance and have them just like choose from the articles that you found in advance. That way they don't spend all their time looking for an article. And then you can have them share what they found. And then, so this part would just depend on if you do this page. Either you would ask them their opinion here or on this page. So kind of up to you, just ask your branch what you do. But then again, now they have more information so they can answer whether they think video game violence causes real life violence. So then you just hear from them, ask them why, and now they have their initial opinion. Any questions so far? No. Okay. Okay, so moving on to the understand page. The understand page and the contrast page are going to take up most of your time. And this is where you really need to prep some discussion questions, because I think the SIG guide says like 45 minutes or something on each page. So you want to have a lot of questions prepped for discussion so that you can spend a lot of time on this page. So basically, this one is listening. So first, you'll have a student read the opinion. So this is the perspective, right? Violent games do not lead to violent behavior. So that's what the audio is going to be talking about. So what I like to do is even before we get here and here, I like to just ask them, what are some reasons why it might not lead to violent behavior? So they have 2 reasons here, but I want to hear like what they think themselves. So you can ask them, why do violent games not lead to violent behavior? Or yeah, why do they not lead to violent behavior? And then you'll hear from them. And then you can also have a student read first reason here, second reason here. And then what you're going to do is you're going to actually bring in those WH questions that you learned, hopefully in your training yesterday, because we have a lot of time to spend. So we want to bring those skills in. So we have, there's no link between video games and violence. So some WH questions they could ask are, why is there no link between video games and violence? What does the Harvard study say about video games and violence? Things like that. So you want to have those WH questions in their head so that they can listen for answers to those questions, okay? So here we have, why is there no link? What does the study say? Things like that. I don't know why this is so big, but it's fine. Okay. And then coming over here, the next reason is the Texas A&M study, violent games may relieve aggression. So you want to ask them for more WH questions. And remember, WH questions are who, what, when, where, why, how, okay? So we can say, how do violent games relieve aggression? Why do violent games relieve aggression? Things like that. So they'll have those in their head, and you don't want to give them these questions. You want them to give you the questions, okay? Also, my account is going to, the meeting is going to end in 10 minutes. So when it ends, if you guys can just come back in and we'll keep going. Sorry about that. Okay. And then once they're here, you're going to play the audio for them. And especially in the beginning, I like to just break it up into pieces. So the audio will be a couple minutes long, and half of it will be talking about this first part, half of it will be talking about this second part. So you want them to take notes, practice their note-taking skills, and you can go over that with them, tasks, transitions, abbreviations, symbols, keywords, and then you'll ask them what they found. And there are specific answers here, but I don't think that you need to look specifically for those answers as long as they can justify why they wrote down what they wrote down, okay? So for example, the answer here is kids who don't play violent video games are just as likely to act violently. So you can, if that's what they told you, you can ask them, well, why did you write that down? Why did you find that important? And they'll say, well, it answered the WH question. So that's kind of what you're looking for. You're looking for them to answer the WH questions and also just write down anything that they find important. Yeah. So then also what you want to do here is build discussion off of this, personalized discussions. So kids who don't play violent video games are just as likely to act violently. So you can ask them, do you know anyone like this? They'll probably be like, yeah, my brother, or something like that. Do you know anyone who uses video games to reduce stress? Do you play video games? What video games do you play? How do you reduce stress? So again, you just want to have personal discussion with them to kind of have them relate to the topic and continue to form opinions. And then also you can bring in media cards. So we have, can video games make you smarter? So we are forming, sorry, I forgot to say up here, this is the positive opinion, right? So we're looking at a positive opinion and then we'll look at like a negative opinion. So you can bring in more information to have discussion. So we have, can video games make you smart? So you'll ask them, can video games make you smart? Why? Have a discussion about that. And then you'll look through this video, see some reasons, be like, okay, so which reasons did you think were most important? Okay, so you have that here. 5 reasons video games are good for you. What benefits can we get from playing video games? Things like that. Are video games bad for you? Again, this is up to you. Look for any media that you find, and then you'll have that to make this part of the class last. Okay. And then we have more discussion here. Why do you think playing violent video games reduces stress? And that's just a discussion question that they give you that you can use. But yeah, I would recommend basically just coming in with your own discussion questions based on the topic. All right, so that is the first perspective. And now we are moving on to the second perspective, which is violent video games induce violent behavior. So this is more like the negative perspective or the opposite perspective of what we looked at before. So again, you'll kind of do this the same way, but here we have reading instead of listening. And we also have a lot more reasons. So going through this, we have violent video games induce violent behavior. Have a student read that. And then if you want to, if you need things to fill up your time, you can ask them, okay, why do violent video games induce violent behavior? Even before looking at any of these reasons, right? So they'll tell you, maybe they'll say, oh, it can make kids angry, and then they'll hit their brother or something like that. And then you'll have them go through the reasons that the SMART textbook gives you. So what are some ways that violent video games induce violent behavior? And then they'll read the first one. Tactical shooting games are designed for realism. Now, you might want to explain what realism is because maybe they're not sure. So make sure you look through these and look through the reading to see if there are any words that they might not know, and you can put it in a media card for that as well. Okay, so we have tactical shooting games are designed for realism. Again, you want to ask WH questions. So why are tactical shooting games designed for realism? How are tactical shooting games designed for realism? What shooting games are designed for realism? Okay, so things like that. You should have some in your head just in case they're not too confident in WH questions, but by the end of the term, they should be able to ask these right away. Okay, so I like to break this one down into 4 sections. And then I will say, okay, so you have your WH questions. I want you to go through, and I believe they have this reading in their workbook. workbooks, but I'm not 100% sure. So they'll either have to underline in their workbooks or underline in their tabs and then send in their answers. So this would be in the second paragraph. So I'll say, okay, go ahead, take 3 minutes, read the second paragraph, underline answers to WH questions, underline anything that you find important, and then submit your answers, okay? So let's say, all right, so let's say they sent in their answers. And again, it doesn't necessarily need to be the ones that they have as long as they can justify why they chose their answer. So let's say tactical shooting games are designed for realism. And they chose the answer, weapons modeled after actual firearms. So you can ask them, why would that cause violent behavior, right? So if we have weapons modeled after actual firearms, why would that cause violent behavior? So you want to build discussion off all of their answers, okay? And you can also ask, can you think of any games that are designed for realism? Have you ever played one? Did it make you feel more violent? If you've played a game with a weapon, did it make you want to use a real weapon? Things like that. And then you'll just basically go through all of these. So next one, improve firing accuracy. How do violent video games improve firing accuracy? How does improving firing accuracy induce violent behavior? Okay. Give them a couple more minutes, read paragraph number 3, underline, write down their answers, all of that. Next one, young kids are at risk of being influenced by violent video games. Again, how are they at risk of being influenced? Why are they at risk of being influenced? And then you can start a discussion on that. So do you agree with this? Do you think young kids are more at risk than adults? So again, always building personal discussion off of this. And then playing video games is active. Again, ask the WH questions, give them 2 minutes, and then to read, underline, answer. Okay. All right, so we have less than a minute until my account kicks us out, so we're all going to need to come back in. I am sorry about that. So I think I'm just going to end it right now and then restart it. Okay, so everyone come back in after that. Okay. All right, let me end and then let's restart again. Okay. All right, so let me back up. After learning more about the 2 perspectives, reevaluate your perspective. Do you think video game violence causes real life violence? So they'll choose your answer. And then I also like to just take a poll of who changed their answer. And I really like to ask those kids, why? What made you change your answer? And if no one changed their answer, then I just like them to kind of like reiterate their reasons for why they chose their perspective. So again, this page doesn't need to be too long, but you just want to hear from a few students what their opinion is and why. You can also do it in a poll form. Yeah. All right. So that is the gist of the lesson. So the first lesson of the unit is going to be a micro project. So I think that should be about 45 minutes long. Check with your branch, check with the SIG guide for how long you guys spend on your projects. But first project is going to be a shorter project. So you can either do the one that they have in the SMART textbook, or you can go into the media cards, and many teachers have already put in different projects. So that will give you some options to choose from, or you can create your own. Again, check with your branch depending on what you guys do. So I think what I did for this project was you will just research video games and present your research to the class. Again, because this is a shorter project, you will probably not have time to do a super exciting project, but this one was just a Video game research project. So they each picked a game, told me the goal of the game, the type of game, characters in the game. Is it multiplayer or single player? Do you know this game or would you want to play it? Why or why not? And then turn it into a PPT. PPTs are always good and they don't take too long to do. So it's a good option for the micro projects. And then you're just going to have them present. And when they're presenting, you always want to make sure to give feedback. So it doesn't have to be anything crazy, but just 1 or 2 pieces of advice, more eye contact with the audience, speak louder, don't read directly off the slide, don't hold your tab in front of your face, all of that. And you can also ask students for their opinion, for them to provide feedback, especially later in the term once they understand how the feedback works. So that is the lesson 1, unit 1. And then I will go into lesson 2 as well because it is the same topic. I won't go super in depth into all of it, but any questions before I keep going? No. Okay. All right. So week 2, we are on the same topic, virtual or reality. So you can just do a little bit of a refresher, like what did we talk about last week? What were the 2 perspectives? Make sure they remember, make sure they know what we're talking about. Going on to here. So again, my branch does not really do this page, but check with your branch. This is basically just a review. So you're just talking about what you talked about last week, filling in the blanks. So violent video games, the 2 perspectives are they do not lead to violent behavior or they do lead to violent behavior. So this is actually a good place to bring in those WH questions again. Why do they not lead to violent behavior? And then the answers are here. There's no link between video games and violence, and they may relieve aggression. So this is just reviewing what we talked about last week. Why does it not lead to violent behavior? What are the reasons? Why does it lead to violent behavior? What are the reasons? Okay, so these are just the boxes that we saw in the listening and the reading. Okay, so they should have those in their notes at least from last week or remember at least a little bit. Okay, so moving on. So this is review. So again, we're just basically talking about the same thing, but adding a bit more information. Okay, and I believe this one alternates between reading and listening. So this week, review is reading, and then I think in 2 weeks after, the next review would be listening. You'll have to double check on that, but this week is review, reading. So you're gonna do this pretty much exactly in the same way. Have a student read the first perspective, leads to violent behavior. Ask them WH questions. They should get this one because these are just the reasons. So why does it lead to violent behavior? First, it influences violent behavior. It's too realistic. It's addictive. Then we're going to do the same thing that we did. So how does it influence violent behavior? And yeah, again, you are not asking them these questions. You want them to ask these questions. That's very important. You don't want to be like, okay, everyone, here's what you're looking for. How does it influence? How do violent games? Right? You don't want to ask them that. You want to be like, okay, everyone, let's ask some WH questions. Who can tell me one WH question about influencing violent behavior? And they should be learning that in C1, so it shouldn't be too difficult for them. Okay. If they are struggling, you can give them some examples, and then as time goes on, they should get the hang of it. Okay. So ask some WH questions, then give them a couple minutes to read the paragraph, underline what they find to be important, what they think answers the WH question. Again, this is all pretty repetitive. Just make sure they have a reason for why they picked their answers, okay? Repeat on the next page, Again, I like to split it at least into paragraphs so that you're talking about the same perspective and then talking about the second perspective. WH questions, again, are always good. Ask them if there's any games they've seen that are too realistic. Does violent behavior lower your stress? Always want to have discussion. Okay, and you can bring in media cards again, some related videos, as long as you have a discussion question. Okay, so this is the longer project day. So I think this one starts about 15 minutes into the second hour. Again, double check with your branch, double check with the SIG guide, but I believe that's what we do. The bigger project, so every even week, starts about 15 minutes into the second hour. Okay, so that's going to take longer. So your project should be more detailed so they don't run out of things to do. Because sometimes if your project is too short, they'll just run out of stuff to do and then everyone's just sitting there. Not good. So this project that I had in here is create, design, or describe a new video game or improve an existing game. So they chose their own game and they either created their own game or made an existing game better. So it told me the goal of the game, who's the audience, devices, what type of game it is, challenges. Ignore that misspelling. I didn't make this one. I stole it from someone else. But difficulty, design the world. And then there's, again, practicing WH questions. So this is guiding their presentation. Why should they play the game? When will they play the game? So all of this stuff, again, is for their presentation. And you don't have to do this project. You can design your own project. You can do the one that's already in here. You can look for other ones in the media cards. Here's another project, figuring out how to make a video game less violent. Again, you can be creative, okay? But again, I've said this many times, but just check with your branch about projects, what type of project they like to do, okay? All right. So that is it for PAR. Any questions on that before I just show you something in the lower levels? Questions, comments? No? Okay. So let me know if you do. Okay, so what I want to show you on a bit lower level is that it's pretty similar, but there's just a few things that are a little bit different. So covers all the same. This is the same, but there's no vocab. So this is just like, this is giga level. The connect page is just, again, to get you interested in the topic, made to shop. So it's looking at like the visuals of stores. So pictures, what do you see in this picture? What do you see? What is this man doing? He's sleeping. He's probably bored. So just generate some discussion. How do different stores get people to buy more things? Okay. Yeah, so this, for lower levels, there's no vocab to go over. It's more just images, and you can show them some videos, pictures. Everyone knows samples, so you can be like, do samples make you want to buy things like that. So bring in your media cards, just generate some interest, some discussion. And then this is the same, except they have their WH questions already made here. So because they're lower level, they might not be as confident in generating these WH questions. So if you want to really help prepare them for future levels, you can practice WH questions with them. Don't show them these yet. And practice them, but these WH questions are here already. Okay, so they have the questions that they need to answer. So it's probably a little bit faster, which also means that you need to think of some good discussion questions. Otherwise, it's going to go too quickly. So you have these, they have the audio, have them take notes, have them answer the questions. Pretty straightforward for the lower levels, and then have some media cards that are relevant. And then understand is the same. They already have the WH questions prepared. So you don't need to worry too much about that because they know what questions they need to answer. And then the only other thing is I think for lower levels, the project's like an hour and a half every time or something like that. But check the SIG guide if you have that level. Okay. I think that's about it. Any questions? Okay. I have the post test for you guys. So I will send that. I think we do need to stay on together until you guys finish that. So let me get that for you. Send you the link. All right. I believe that is the post test. Okay, so we'll just hang out for a few minutes. If you could just like send a message in the chat when you're done, just saying done so I know you're done. I'll just hang out. If you have any questions, you can message me. And then when we're done with this post test, I'll send you one more link after that. So send done in the chat when you're done. All right, I'll give you guys like another minute. It looks like most people are done, and then I will send you the last thing. All right, I think everyone's done. If you're not done, just finish up. No worries. Thanks for coming to my workshop. If you are in the debate workshop, I'll be doing that in like 10 minutes. So I will see you there. Last thing is just a survey link if you want to fill it out. If you have any questions, I'll just put my email in the chat for you. You can email me, and I think if you need the recording, you can just let me know, or HQ, and they should send it out. All right, well, thank you for coming. Bye. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna end the meeting.